How's it going, guys? Welcome to a mini kind of news roundup. We've got some information on the Penguin series, which I will be saving until last in this video. But first and foremost, I want to tackle a few stories with regards to James Gunn. You guys know the whole deal. He's the joint head of DC Studios now. He's constructing an 8 to 10 year plan with DC, which, can you imagine that responsibility? And also just a couple of other tidbits, like with regards to Ben Affleck, what people are thinking of the Batman in the DCU, and how James Gunn has actually, and I'm very happy that he tweeted this, he's always transparent with kind of dispelling certain things that fans are cooking in the backgrounds, or certain outlets are claiming that they know something for sure, and James Gunn's just kind of like, that's bullshit. So we're going to talk about what I mean with that. Go ahead and like this video if you do go on to enjoy it. Just thanks for clicking on it. Thanks for liking it if you already have. But right at the beginning, let's start with a fan asking this on Twitter, saying that The Wrap just reported that you and Safran are planning to reveal the new DC plans in the next 2 months. Is that true? And James Gunn replied saying, yes, that's true, revealing it to the Warner Brothers Discovery team, that is. So, not necessarily to the public. In fact, he's saying, well, not to the public. He's saying to Warner Brothers Discovery. Don't forget that when James Gunn came on board, he had this mandate, along with Peter Safran as co-heads of DC Studios. Look, my name is David Zaslav. I want you to make this company profitable. Ideally, I want to compete with Marvel Studios at a certain period of time. I don't think Zaslav expects that that's just going to happen overnight, but he feels confident in this newly appointed leadership at DC Studios to somewhat curate this timeline, this roadmap. You know, like how at San Diego Comic-Con or whatever, Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige will come out saying, oh, this is Phase 4, this is Phase 5, this is Phase 6 or whatever. I don't know if it's going to be exactly announced like that, but you can bet your ass in the meeting room at Warner Brothers Discovery when Peter Safran and James Gunn go into that building, talk to the board or whatever, that will be something similar that he's got going on there. And that is just pretty nuts to imagine. Soon, within a couple of months, this is going to be going down. Like behind closed doors, and I wish I was a fly on that wall, they're going to have a little bit, well, not just a little bit of a roadmap, but an actual 8 to 10 year roadmap, most likely being quite detailed in that first 2 to 5 year period, you'd have to imagine, because of course this will be subject to change along the way throughout those years. That wouldn't be remotely surprising if James Gunn was like, well, at year 6, we might be doing this, and that might, change, just like what it does over at Marvel Studios from time to time. So what could this involve? Well, we know that Henry Cavill announced that he's back as Superman, so at some point in what I would say the distant future, we'll know a lot more about that. I'm sure James Gunn has that in his mind, even though there's a bit of chatter online at the minute that there's been no proper contract signed, despite Henry Cavill saying he's back, even though I'm fairly confident in the background that Henry Cavill wouldn't have actually said after Black Adam came out, it's been out for like a week or two at that point, he did that Instagram video saying, it's true guys, I'm back, and he's been talking about the character. He must know something behind the scenes. He must have had a phone call with James Gunn by now saying, look, I'm not entertaining this, like right this second, we're not getting you to sign this, that, and the other. They're still trying to find a director, writers, all of this stuff. But to anyone who's like really doubting the Henry Cavill stuff, I would say don't worry about it for now. I don't think Henry Cavill would go that ballsy out on making a video and literally announcing it to the world if there wasn't some steam behind that engine behind the scenes. But also, James Gunn, as we know recently, has teased on social media a picture of Lobo and Mr. Terrific, and you can bet your ass that this has got some, reality to it in terms of the projects for what he's got planned as the head of DC Studios. And he wouldn't put pictures as the head of DC Studios out like that on social media if it didn't signify any kind of reality for what he's got planned. So personally, to me, the Mr. Terrific poster, or photo rather, and Lobo would suggest or potentially symbolize or signify that these could be amongst the first projects in that initial 8 to 10 year period. So maybe whether that's through the form of an HBO Max show or a theatrical movie, the fact that he's posting those out there with no context as the head of DC Studios alongside Peter Safran, you just wouldn't do that for an absolute meme's sake of it. It's got to be in that initial pipeline. But the reason why I wanted to recap everything that's transpired so far, ever since Peter Safran and James Gunn came into office, I guess you could say, as the heads of DC Studios, is because most recently on the social media that a lot of people seem to be jumping to in the midst of Twitter melting down, even it's still here, the lights are on, but if you're on Twitter, you know what I mean. But this app that people seem to be jumping to is not only Mastodon, but Hive, I do have links there. Follow me there. Just a little bit of a plug. If you're jumping over there, I've opened up accounts. Do look in the description below or the top pin comment so you can see me over there outside of these videos. But the reason why we're mentioning Hive is because, yes, James Gunn did post these teasers like Lobo and whatnot to Mastodon, but now he's well, this isn't an actual post that he's done on Hive, but James Gunn has indeed changed his banner. You know, like on social media, Facebook, Twitter, whatever have you, sometimes you have a little banner in the background. James Gunn has changed it to that of the Kingdom Come characters. Now, again, just to acknowledge, this isn't an actual post like what he's done before, like Lobo or Mr. Terrific, but given the fact that he has put it as his banner, I do think there's some merit in having some fan speculation here in terms of hinting that this could be something. Let's look at this in several ways. It could be a tease of the direction of characters in this 8 to 10 year plan period that he's going to be talking to Warner Brothers Discovery, or should I say revealing to WBD in the next 2 months. One could even argue that it could reflect the universe the DCU will be shifted into, you know, after whatever Barry does to try and restore the timeline that he's somewhat screwed over during the Flashpoint-esque storyline in that of the Flash movie. Obviously, we know what's going to happen. We know it's not going to be a copy and paste. Andy Muschietti said that. It's Flashpoint, but not the way you're expecting it. But no matter what, you can't always, I like what Jay Garrick said in the actual Flash TV show, if I cracked this Batman coffee cup here, and even if I put it back together, it won't be the exact same state, will it? Even if I glued it, it would have little cracks there, and you can kind of most likely look at the universe that James Gunn and Peter Safran are piping up after the Flash movie to be that. Maybe subtle retcons, same characters like Momoa as Aquaman, Wonder Woman will be Gal Gadot and whatnot, but you see where I'm going with this. There'll be subtle changes as well, so maybe Kingdom Come, or the vibe of that, or something like that, maybe even characters in that famous Kingdom Come picture that he's got as his banner could be a reflection of what is to come as well. And obviously that's certainly interesting to consider when in this Kingdom Come picture you see characters like Hawkman and Atom Smasher, of whom we've had introduced in Black Adam, of course, with the JSA. But obviously it doesn't mean, I do want to get this clear, this is just a bloody banner we're talking about, or even if he did post it like he did with Lobo, like he did with Mr. Terrific, it does not mean that absolutely everyone here is absolutely 100% confirmed for the future of Peter Safran and James Gunn's DC Universe 8 to 10 year plan, with Power Girl, the Spectre, all coming with their own individual projects. Obviously not. It could just be more of a vibe of where things could be headed, if you get my meaning. Or, honestly, it could just be a photo that James Gunn likes. It's got a lot of important DC characters there from both sides of the fence, and he put it as his banner. I mean, he's the head of DC Studios now, along with Peter Safran, so maybe he's just like, hey, this is kind of like a cool image of multiple DC characters, and it could be as simple as that. We won't know until we know, so I'd love to know your thoughts about that. But let's now move on to Batman. I mean, we talk a lot about Batman on this channel. Not only Matt Reeves' Batman, of course, but also whatever the heck is going on with the DC Universe Batman, of which once was Michael Keaton, of what we heard for a long time, and now it could be shifting as Ben Affleck coming back, or as in a video I made the other day, I gave my take on will Robert Pattinson be the Batman of the DCU, because a lot of people seem to be talking about that. And in that video, I get into why I don't think Pattinson's Batman will be shifted into this new mainline DCU continuity universe as their main Batman. Do check it out if you haven't seen it yet. But if that's actually the case, and if I happen to be right, I'm not saying I will be, but let's just say it isn't Robert Pattinson and he does stay in his separate universe, which I do hope is the case, personally for me, who's left on the table? Like, who would be the DC Universe Batman? Well, a lot of fans, and this isn't just only like speculation, but a lot of fans do want the main DC Universe Batman after Barry restores the timeline by the events of the Flash movie as best as he can, as it went over. People still want that to be Batfleck. And not only want, but actually think it will be. And there's other people who are saying that the long-rooted original plans of Michael Keaton staying on in this new timeline after the Flash movie is still the direction they're going to take it. He still might not be the, like, in action Batman left, right, and center, but rather he stays on in the new universe post the Flash movie and trains up some kind of newer Batman, whether that's Terry or whatever the heck they're doing there. And, that could end up being true. I'm not saying it is, and it's interesting if it does end up being true, because just having a sense of this DC fandom, I know a lot of people would like that, but I think a lot more people would be alienated in the sense that they want their mainline DC universe continuity that they're road mapping out right now for the next 8 to 10 years. They wouldn't want it to be anyone but Bruce Wayne in terms of Batman. I know there's other Batmen out there, so to speak, but you get what I'm saying. I think they still would like an actual Bruce Wayne Batman like Batfleck or something, even though we've got another Bruce Wayne Batman in the somewhat Elseworlds Matt Reeves universe. The reason why I'm talking about the whole Ben Affleck thing is because recently we had a smaller update of which some fans were put into a little bit of doubt in terms of, oh, maybe Ben Affleck wouldn't be the new James Gunn, Peter Safran DCU Batman, because Ben Affleck and Matt Damon have launched a production company called Artists Equity. Now, the thing that caused this doubt about this is that the reports spoke of Affleck working solely with an exclusivity to his production company, and a lot of people thought that was with regards to roles, but it actually turns out to be that the exclusivity part of Ben Affleck to his and Matt Damon's production company will be filmmaking. So it's not like Ben Affleck isn't going to pop up in other roles in the next 8 to 10 years, but maybe his filmmaking side of things will just be stuck intentionally to his and Damon's production company. But the interesting thing, and the way Ben Affleck spoke about his new venture in saying that the next act of my career for a long time, it just does make me think that intuitively, at least for now, and I would love to be proved wrong, don't get me wrong, is that if it's the next act of his career for a long time, and I know he's probably mainly talking about filmmaking, but also he's probably interested in all avenues in terms of his and Matt Damon's production company. I really don't think Affleck will be helming any solo Batman movies in the James Gunn, Peter Safran new DCU, rivaling Marvel Studios universe. Now, it's of course that he could still be Batman in cameos after the Flash movie, but the way I see it is that given that David Zaslav, the top dog at Warner Brothers Discovery, the guy who wants this to be as successful as possible, the guy who is really hammered down that he wants the Trinity in full swing, Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman, I don't think he'd be happy with just cameos, even if it is from Ben Affleck. So, given that I don't think Ben Affleck personally, I haven't heard him say this to me or anything, I just feel like he's not going to sign on to, Batman project in the new DCU under James Gunn and Peter Safran, solo movie, this, that, and the other. It does still leave the question, even if you believe that it will be Ben Affleck, but to me, it does leave the question, who is going to be this new Batman? Just wanted to update everyone that if you heard that story about Ben Affleck's exclusivity behind his production company, it is in terms of filmmaking and apparently not roles, so I don't know if that will give some people a glimmer of hope. But also, this kind of links with the next comment from James Gunn answering a fan with regards to this DCU Batman, and he did give like an ambiguous, broader comment about just any speculation on absolutely anything these outlets reporting exclusives. A fan asked saying, some people are claiming that they know who will be the DCU Batman. Did you already decide, or are they bullshitting? Now, James Gunn responds by saying, anyone who says they know anything about anything in the future DC universe is bullshitting, because right now, that's truly only me and Peter. And I do believe this. Again, I can give all my takes, my perspectives, but they're all opinion. They're all speculation. Even my will Robert Pattinson really be the Batman of the DC universe? I could be wrong about what I said and how I don't think he will be. But at the same time, all those people claiming that he will be could be wrong as well. And it's the same thing with any kind of speculation about what you may have been hearing, whether it's from other YouTubers saying, this, that, or the other, or like, David Zaslav apparently hates Robert Pattinson, or this, it's just like, don't listen to that. Unfortunately, right now, we're in a bit of an interesting time with DC, in that on the bottom line, we are just going to have to wait. We may get some interesting more nuggets, given that James Gunn and Peter Safran are going to reveal their slate, supposedly, to Warner Brothers Discovery. Well, not supposedly, as James Gunn confirmed, in the next couple of months. And hopefully, in the next 3 months or so, a month after that, we could get some more interesting nuggets. After all, James Gunn has already been actually posting photos of DC characters after he came in as one of the heads of DC Studios. So that's interesting stuff. So we could have, more nuggets come in the new year, nuggets of info that is. After the Flash movie, and I say after, we're going to have to wait for it to release, see what happens. That's when we're going to have a much better idea of what the heck is happening. And I still wouldn't doubt, by the way, if after the Flash movie, there's still a bit of confusion, because the Flash movie was made under the old regime. Apparently, it still largely stays the same. Apparently, it's still a really exceptional movie. Say what you will about Ezra Miller, like, put that bias aside, whatever bias you have. Apparently, Andy Muschietti has made a great movie. But again, what intrigues me about this is, with James Gunn's plans, is he going to, like, springboard off of the Flash movie? Does the Flash movie kind of entering this new timeline by the end of it just allow any way for him to do whatever he wants to do after that, in terms of like, oh, apparently like Superman has always had a cousin Kara with Supergirl and whatnot. All I can say is we're just gonna have to wait. We're gonna have to wait quite a while, unless James Gunn does give us something a lot more solid about what's to come after that Warner Brothers Discovery meeting. And who knows, after he's had that meeting, he might feel a little bit more like, I'll give you a bit of a tease. It went well with WBD. They don't want me and Peter to change anything because they have the faith in us to have even come up with this, to present it to them. The meeting went well, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a sneak peek. That could happen in the next, I don't know, 3 to 4 months. But let's move on to our last story today. And as I always say, take this with a grain of salt, but this surrounds the Penguin series. So we have a new report from the Illuminati about this exclusive from the Penguin, and they say that the Illuminati has learned from our sources that HBO Max is looking to cast Oswald Cobblepot's mother. Frances Cobblepot, mother of the Penguin, will play an important role in the upcoming HBO Max series. Frances has an intense bond with her son, and she loves him dearly. She tries to control her son, but she begins to lose control over her own life due to a tragic condition. Frances Cobblepot is in the early stages of dementia with Lewy bodies. Oswald Cobblepot is a villain and a criminal, but he is also a son with a sick mother. This is the Penguin's TV show, and as he is the titular character, it makes sense that the creative team would want to create a sympathetic lead. Oswald's relationship with his ailing mother is sure to be one of the most emotionally riveting and potentially distressing elements of the Penguin. This is fascinating to me because this isn't to all those like, oh, Oswald Cobblepot, like, why are they making the show sympathetic? That's if, they are. And by the way, just my take on this, of course, grain of salt, this might not be true, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is. I can imagine Oz, as we saw him in the Penguin, who is really aspirational, who took those comments from Falcone right before he died. Remember when Falcone said he'll always be just like this bozo in a suit or whatever, and earlier on in the film or in deleted scenes, Penguin said this city will one day know his name. He is very ambitious, very, very, very ambitious. But as we've seen before, whether it's in the comics or even a great example to this particular point of discussion and story today with Oswald's mother in the Penguin show, is that of Fox's Gotham. There was a really intriguing portrayal of the Penguin with Robin Lord Taylor and the Penguin's mother in that show. And I can imagine, despite Oz wanting to take the throne of the criminal underworld, he's up against Sophia Falcone, who wants to be in her rightful place as the heir to this ruler position in the criminal element, if you will. It's going to be very Gotham street level, mature, kind of, warfare and whatnot, but this show is called The Penguin. So I do feel like, despite that, and I'm not saying this to be like Arthur Fleck going back to his apartment, washing his mother and whatnot, but I do feel like we're going to see this foundation to Oz that humanizes him a bit. And that's the thing. Despite how much swagger and how much ruthlessness Colin Farrell's Penguin will have and what he had in the movie, he was like, hey, vengeance, he's spraying the Tommy gun, if you will, around the place. And he's really ferocious in that moment right before the Batmobile got started up and it looked like he was shitting himself. I do feel like we're going to see this vulnerable side to him. And that can be portrayed very, very well, actually, with his mother. I mean, imagine if Sophia Falcone murdered his mother, just, even though she has dementia and whatnot, and he was looking after her this whole time, and let's just say she had a considerable amount of time to go, and she was maybe his one rock in life, the woman who was always rooting for him, where the world, in Matt Reeves' vision, and in a lot of Penguin visions, to be honest, always look at him as the guy who would never be what he wants to be. I can imagine Oz's mum in this iteration being his biggest supporter. And even though she might not be able to communicate that as much anymore with her dementia, he's still very, very bound to her. And can you imagine if she's like some collateral damage? That would be nuts. Absolutely nuts. I'm not saying that's happening. I'm just getting into my Batman speculation mode right now. As you know, I love doing that on this channel. But also, this really does make sense in Matt Reeves' vision, by the way, because I've seen and heard so many times Matt Reeves talk about not only the Riddler, Batman, but Selina and Penguin, every character having this kind of point of origin in terms of where they all diverge because of trauma. Now, Oz will have his own. And that's one thing that Matt Reeves, as he's articulated before, is very interested in, seeing how each character, similar to the Riddler, have these traumas, yet go down such different paths, and exploring that in a series quite literally called HBO Max's The Penguin. It is definitely something I'm really down for, and I feel like Colin Farrell can really portray the Penguin as he did in that movie in a kick-ass way, but offer these multifaceted aspects to the character, of which this series, which is 8 episodes, will really allow to get a little bit more of a deeper insight into this character that maybe some of us didn't quite expect. So I'd love to know your thoughts on this. I personally think it's a fantastic idea, seeing this really gritty, the Batman, Batverse version of Penguin with his mother as well, because I know there's a lot of Gothamites on this channel. We saw Robin Lord Taylor's Penguin and his mother, but now imagine it on Colin Farrell's, and all the things that could happen with the war that is to come for the Kingpin position of the criminal element. So that more or less wraps up today's little news discussion video. Let me know your thoughts on absolutely everything we discussed, from the DCU stuff, James Gunn replying to a couple of tweets, what you think could be maybe a teaser for the Kingdom Come vibe of the future, perhaps. And then, of course, the Penguin series, the Ben Affleck stuff. What are your takes on that? Who could be the DCU Batman? But, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. Thanks for liking. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. And I'll see all of you in, I guess, that next video. Goodbye.